Okay, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you had a good lunch. Well, now that we understand our norms, what we're going to be doing, we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about the big picture, the phases and functions of a campaign, what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're going to get it done. And I'm really glad that you're all joining me on this journey. So let us do a deep dive. Okay, so today we're going to be covering our introduction. Hello. And we're going to cover the goals of this section. We're going to go over campaign strategy, all that entails, what that means. We have some intuition, but really we want to get really down to the basics, what we're talking about. We're going to have a case study. You're going to actually use that critical thinking skills that you all are here for and bring it to the table on Bernardo for state rep. We'll learn more about him. Then we're going to talk about the functions of a campaign, different departments, all of that jazz. And, of course, our debrief and close. So let's go. Let's take this journey. Okay, so our purpose, I'll go ahead and read right here. Explore the ins and outs of an electoral campaign operation, its various functions, particularly how they relate to the organizing program. What you'll do. Recognize the goal of a presidential campaign and its different functions. Discuss how a campaign operation and its various departments work together to elect a candidate. Examine and outline how the broader campaign ecosystem, state party, county party, advocacy groups support the organizing program. All right, so right before we get into this, I want you to take a look at this very influential ad by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And, just based on this, I want you to deduce, I want you to think, what do modern campaigns need to do to win? I want you to think very basic here, all right? So, and I hope this doesn't bother anybody. I hope there's not too many Joe Crowley fans in the crowd, but let's go ahead and take a look.
Women like me aren't supposed to run for office. I wasn't born to a wealthy or powerful family. Mother from Puerto Rico, dad from the South Bronx. I was born in a place where your zip code determines your destiny. My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm an educator, an organizer, a working class New Yorker. I've worked with expectant mothers, I've waited tables and led classrooms. And going into politics wasn't in the plan. But after 20 years of the same representation, we have to ask, who has New York been changing for? Every day gets harder for working families like mine to get by. The rent gets higher, healthcare covers less, and our income stays the same. It's clear that these changes haven't been for us, and we deserve a champion. It's time to fight for a New York that working families can afford. That's why I'm running for Congress. This race is about people versus money. We've got people, they've got money. It's time we acknowledge that not all Democrats are the same. That a Democrat who takes corporate money, profits off foreclosure, doesn't live here, doesn't send his kids to our schools, doesn't drink our water or breathe our air, cannot possibly represent us. What the Bronx and Queens needs is Medicare for all, tuition-free public college, a federal jobs guarantee, and criminal justice reform. We can do it now. It doesn't take 100 years to do this. It takes political courage. A New York for the many is possible. It's time for one of us. Vote for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on June 26th.
I wonder how she'll do. Great. Thank you, Alexandria. So, what do we take here? Really quick, what do we think campaigns need to do that she kind of showed in her video right there? Okay, great. Yep, absolutely. Those are all really important. Now, we're going to get really down to the basics. The basic thing that she represented there so well, cogently, succinctly, and in that video that any basic, good, decent campaign is going to do. So let's zoom out, but also dive in. Once again, we got our little guide here. We're going to go right into campaign strategy. So this is what we call our strategic planning framework. Really great jargony term for basically, why we're doing this, how we're going to do it, and what specific things you need to do to win a campaign. That's what it's all about. That's what we're talking about, a strategic planning framework. And we can really divide that up into 4 different sections. And it's very important for you guys because you may think you understand what a campaign is all about. But sometimes campaigns don't even know what they're about. And that is why it's important to understand all 4 of these steps. And it should be a really good guiding light, a North Star, just as we have up here with our mission. Does anyone have an idea of what the mission might be? Okay, good ideas, very good. And then we have our goals. Goals pretty simple, we'll get to it. It's basically we got to win, absolutely. Strategy, kind of said the how, right? Very simple. And the tactics, the tools you are learning in this lovely boot camp. So, let's get right into the first one. All right, can someone here read? I will. Obviously, a campaign exists to elect someone into office, but not just anyone. Someone who represents a series of issues and views that inspire supporters and voters. In other words, what about the status quo changes with the possibility of electing this candidate? The mission of a campaign is thus the change it seeks to accomplish by electing the candidate. The mission answers the why. Why should volunteers and voters support the campaign? Very simple. What are we doing here? What is our mission? I believe you all are here, and I know I'm here, and Democrats are here. Someone like Barack Obama was there because they wanted to get something done, His mission wasn't to win, unlike certain other presidential politicians that we know who occupy said office. We're here to do something. We're here to help people. How are we going to do it? What are we going to do? What's the vision? When we look out, what kind of world we want to live in? That's what this is all about. And that's why this is so important to us and to our culture. And you should always keep that in the back of your mind, because when you're knocking doors, when you're making phone calls, this mission, it's going to get you through. I remember we were -10 real feel, Mason City, Iowa, and I needed 100 doors. I knocked about 70 myself. And we had just come off the Iowa Liberty and Justice dinner, a very famous dinner, very important for the campaigns, of real inspiration for my then candidate, Kamala Harris. And thinking back to those words about justice, that gets you through. So does eating food and sleep, but more than anything, that extra ounce of courage and tenacity, that's what the campaign's all about. That's how you're going to get through it, and that's also how your volunteers are going to get through it. And you should always be mindful of that, of why you're doing this. And I know so many people had different ways of reminding themselves, checking Twitter every day on different tweets, keeping Post-its of little quotes in the office. Always keep that in mind and be mindful of it. So it's very important. Mission, why we're doing this, what it's all about. And we'll revisit that AOC thing so we can really dissect that. All right, we got our goal. Boom, simple. Let's read this really quick here, though. The most important goal of a campaign is to elect a candidate, to win. The logic is, if the candidate, who stands for a series of values and issues, wins, then they can be an agent of change for what the voters and supporters want and believe in. The goal is to win. Very simple. We got this problem. We want to have this fix. You know how it's going to get done? If you vote. And if you vote for me or whomever. And, we're not going to get into the comparative politics of it all, but that's the message of the campaign. Why are you going to make that difference? How are you going to make your mission possible? Like, why are you the solution? Part of the solution, at the least. Very simple, very good, very important. All right. Now, how do you build your list? What is a list? Remember? What's organizing all about? Yep, it's a list building exercise, right? We need to get our supporters from A to B. We need to make sure that we know who they are, how we can mobilize them, how we can do X, Y, and Z. And we need to do 3 things that a campaign really needs to get done. So let's focus really quickly. Back up here. It just skipped a slide accidentally. So we're talking about strategy. Zoom back out. Strategy, we talked about the mission, talked about the goal. This is how we're going to do it. This is the big framework for how we're going to focus a program. And let's go ahead and read really quickly. This is our plan of action to achieve the goal. Developing a campaign strategy starts with getting a group of smart people to make educated guesses about how people will behave. This is the start of the list of likely supporters and voters the campaign will seek to engage. Campaigns are a list-building exercise. The bigger the list of likely supporters and voters, the higher the chance the candidate will get 50% plus 1 of the votes. 50% plus 1. That's how we win. That's how we're going to win in Pennsylvania. And that one person is so important. We're going to get them. We're going to find them. We're going to turn them out. And whatever that needs to do, maybe it's, oh my gosh, we need to push up the registrations in Philadelphia. Why do we do that? Or we need to really do some heavy persuasion in the collar counties. Like, this is all things that come from the origins and the top of a campaign. It's basic fundamental assumptions and then practice on what they're going to do. And it's all to make sure that we achieve the goal of winning. And we win by getting 50% plus 1. We do what we have to get to that goal, to make the mission possible. Very simple. It's all layered together. We got it. Now, as I unfortunately alluded to briefly, how do we build this list? We got a big list. Where are we going to find it? What's it called? What is it? I know you're going to have a million questions about it, so I'll save those for at the end. It's a beautiful thing called the voter file. We'll get into it. Now, 3 main ways that we activate a list of supporters. First, we're going to register new people. We're going to get them in to our sphere. We can understand them, contact them, and you'll learn about how we physically do that logistically in the future, and you'll go out and be doing it very soon. So you're going to register people, bring them into our sphere. Welcome to our democratic family. We really appreciate you coming here. We're going to persuade. We're going to actually go up because, surprisingly, Twitter is not real life, and somehow people, they just don't know. Oh, Donald Trump or whomever else, Democrat, like, I just don't know. They exist. Some out in the world, somewhere just sitting under a rock. Like, they exist, and they don't have opinions on this stuff. And we're going to talk to them, and we're going to show them why it's in their best interest to support our mission, achieve our goal of winning, and doing that by making sure they vote. So that's going to be part of your mission. And then motivate. We got other people. They're sitting on the sidelines. They're with us. Let's get them out there. Let's get them to do this. Let's show them why it's important to get people out to vote. GOTV. We'll get that as well. So, now, this graph, it's not a scientific graph. It does not exist in the world, but it is a visual representation of our voter universe. Okay? So, this is going to be just visually descriptive. It's going to be a helpful tool that's going to help you understand it really quick. Can someone tell me what it looks like that bottom line, our x-axis, is representing? As it just says? Yeah, turnout. So from low to high, exactly. Low, you're going to have less people turning out. And if you're in that sphere, you're a low turnout voter. If you're all the way a point up here, you're a high turnout voter. Exactly. So it's not pods of people. You could lie on any dot somewhere in here, but just using that as a frame of metric. Up here, you're more likely to turn out. Down here, you're less likely to turn out. Then up here, we got on our y-axis. Who says that? Support. Obviously, for our belief of their likelihood to support Democrats. A lot of ways that we know that. For instance, if they've been a registered Democrat all their life and they vote only in presidentials, but we see that they vote all the time, right? We can deduce that for various means through the public voter file. If you're low, you're not likely to support us. Sorry, MAGA. Medium, maybe. Who knows? That'd be well, let's talk to them. And then high. When they vote for us. They vote for the Democrats. They vote for our mission and our values. So very simple. And obviously any pinpoint, you got low support, low turnout. You got up here high support, high turnout. You can be on any different point to represent that. I'm sure we can make a lovely lined graph with each individual point. But once again, these things are ethereal. They're concepts. This is just to give us a demonstration of how we as a campaign think about these things. So I want us all to, in the future now, look at these little buckets, or rather these little squares, I'll call them buckets. And, if you're in this little quadrant, so to speak, you're a high support, high turnout, like I mentioned. If you're here, you're medium support, medium turnout, etc., etc. We can deduce that. Any questions there? We understand the system of this graph? Great. Okay. Now, if we're looking at people that we want to motivate, right? That motivator. We want to know people there. Where on this graph are they going to lie? People that, when they vote for us, but they don't always vote. Maybe they only vote in presidentials, but primaries, whatever. Where on this graph would they lie? Yeah, exactly. So on the turnout, obviously they're medium, right? Probably that's where they would lie. But when they do, they're in our corner. They're standing in our square. They're caucusing with us if you're in Nevada. And this is going to be a different conversation than we'll have for people that we're trying to persuade. Where on this graph do you think we're trying to persuade people? Be a little tricky. Yeah, so we're going to spend most of our time and resources on these people. People who are turning out. We know that they are. We have a track record of that. And we just got to go and we got to be like, hey, listen, I totally get it. You know what's going to probably make the most sense for you, honestly? Yeah, vote for Democrat. Yep, you're totally right. Let's do it. Now, persuasion corner. All right? This is exactly where we want to live. The high turnout, medium support. Those are people that we're going to spend the bulk of our time on. And we'll get into a little bit more why. Now, where are volunteers coming from? Oh my gosh, you guessed it. Right at these corners. These people are, we can count on them, we can rely on them. We're not going to spend time talking to them because we know they turn out. They know when they vote for us. So what are we going to use them for? We're going to use them to activate these other boxes. These people should be volunteers. If you're a good Democrat, if you believe in these things and you actively support it every year, you should volunteer. If you're a good Democrat, you should volunteer. And our job is to multiply what we do and activate these two buckets with these guys. These are going to be your heroes. These are going to be the people that you're going to get to know of your volunteers in this campaign, many of whom of mine I am still very good friends with and talk to, and you're going to learn so much about how they really make this democracy function, and you'll also learn how smoke-filled rooms literally can't do it. So, now, understandably, you're like, what's going on here? Let's see. Well, first off, as I've just learned, we've got an entire other bucket. We got these unregistered voters. Now, why aren't they on this little graph right here? Yeah, exactly. Because they're not in our voter universe. They don't exist. We can't see them. They're like, there's a shroud above them, cloaked over them. And basically, we, if this is a part of our program, want to bring them in, identify them here. and build that universe. So they're not currently someone that we can see, and doing voter registration, they become a part of our universe. Welcome to our voting family. So really great. Glad to have that. Welcome, guys. As I was mentioning a little bit before, we're not going to spend our time looking in these corners. Why do you think that is? Yeah, so I would love to talk to virtually, these guys, maybe even these guys, right? We'd love to talk to that, get them out there. And hashtag neutrality, but unless I got $50 billion, like a certain mayor of New York, right? A campaign has worse than limited time, limited money. And we have to focus our resources, our time, therefore our organizers and our energies and our creativity on the most effective ways. And that is really getting these people who they support us, but they need a little push, or people who they don't need a push to go out to vote, but they need a little persuasion. We need to tug at their heartstrings a little bit and just get them to know why it's so important to vote and why it's important to vote for us. So that is going to be the most useful and effective use of our time. So it's a really good point, but I don't want you to think that we're leaving people in the dark. We are doing as a campaign what makes sense, because ultimately, to get our mission done, we need 50% plus one. That rhymed. I'm going to put it on a t-shirt. Basically, we're here to just get that plus one over the 50%. We would love it for this. We'd love to be an 80% landslide, something crazy like that, right? But our mission is how on whatever resources we have available that we get to 50% plus one. So keeping that in mind, that's kind of why that happens. Yet, there are an incredible amount of activist groups and various different, bases and organizations that are reaching out to voters such as this, who have been disaffected and maybe are not still into our political process. Groups like, you can see here, Black Lives Matter, Voto Latino, When We All Vote, good old Planned Parenthood, etc., right? They have their own constituencies, their own lists. They know how to activate them on issues that they care about. And we want to make sure that they do their job, we do our job, and we're affecting this entire voting universe, except for maybe, these guys. Any questions there? Again, that can be a little confusing, and I don't want you to think we're leaving, these people out in the blue. Great. Yeah. So, really, really excellent, guys. The way that we should think about it is we got something we're trying to accomplish. The best way to do that is to win elections, and we need to have a plan for how we're going to do it. Now, what do we exactly do? What are the tactics that we're going to talk about? Let's read. Tactics are the tools we will use to execute our strategy. Once a campaign has a clear mission and goal and has identified a voter universe to get to 50% plus one, the campaign must think about what specific actions it will take to meet voters where they are and move them to action. Tactics include doors, phones, texting, digital, and many more. So, why do we think this is important? I'm going to hear some ideas. Yeah, exactly. We could talk, we have a plan, but if we can't put it in action, if we don't know the tools or the skills, how are we going to get it done? And that's what you guys are here for. You are the tools. You are the skills. You are the greatest and probably the most overlooked yet important bazooka in a campaign's arsenal, right? There are an incredible amount of ways that field programs move these margins, win this for you. If you win by one vote, you won because of every single door that you knocked and every single call that you made, or whatever the plan of, any voter registration so that you got. So it's really important to always keep that in mind, right? You're not just a person just doing something for fun. You're moving voters, and you're moving it at a statewide and national scale when we add it all up. So that's what our commitment is to you. Right? Now let's take a look back at it all. we're going to take a look again at the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ad. And I want you to succinctly identify the mission, what the goal is. I think you can fairly understand what the goal is and be specific. What her strategy is. And then her tactics, what she's doing to win. All right. One more time. Let's get it done.
Women like me aren't supposed to run for office. I wasn't born to a wealthy or powerful family. Mother from Puerto Rico, dad from the South Bronx. I was born in a place where your zip code determines your destiny. My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm an educator, an organizer, a working-class New Yorker. I've worked with expectant mothers, I've waited tables and led classrooms. And going into politics wasn't in the plan. But after 20 years of the same representation, we have to ask, who has New York been changing for? Every day gets harder for working families like mine to get by. The rent gets higher, healthcare covers less, and our income stays the same. It's clear that these changes haven't been for us, and we deserve a champion. It's time to fight for a New York that working families can afford. That's why I'm running for Congress. This race is about people versus money. We've got people, they've got money. It's time we acknowledge that not all Democrats are the same. That a Democrat who takes corporate money, profits off foreclosure, doesn't live here, doesn't send his kids to our schools, doesn't drink our water or breathe our air, cannot possibly represent us. What the Bronx and Queens needs is Medicare for all, tuition-free public college, a federal jobs guarantee, and criminal justice reform. We can do it now. It doesn't take 100 years to do this. It takes political courage. A New York for the many is possible. It's time for one of us. Vote for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on June 26th.
All right. Once again, I could watch that all day. Some good stuff. Now, what was her mission? Come on, let me have it. Yeah, great. So, obviously, she's running to win, right? We already know her goal. But the reason we have it is because we need to elect people to Congress that represent the community. That was her mission. People versus money, fighting for what you believe in, having a New Yorker represent New Yorkers, etc. Joe Crowley's a New Yorker, but her audience knows exactly what she means. She represents them. And basically, yes, I think that's exactly correct. How about her strategy? Very simple. 50% plus one. You're absolutely right. And the way that she's going to do that is by a grassroots campaign. So things such as talking to voters in person, at homes, meetings, right? She showed that photo on Twitter of her worn out sneakers from all of the doors that she personally knocked, right? That's her strategy, and then that's her tactics right there, what she's doing. And you're going to embody that. You're going to learn all about that, and welcome to the crew. All right. Before we move on, do we have any questions really quickly about our strategic planning framework? Okay, great. Well, let's get to our phases of an electoral campaign. All right. Kind of gave the idea away to you guys, but you're going to see this a lot. This is something that is important. You need to understand it. It may seem simple or overly intuitive, but I promise you, it is incredibly relevant. It is incredibly good to understand this and to have a very concrete idea of it in your mind. So, these are various functions. Let's state the obvious. Which one do you think comes first? Capacity building. Great. Second, voter contact. Amazing. And lastly, GOTV. Does everyone know what that stands for? We do? Yeah, it's get out the vote. That's our mobilization part. Let's go. Let's get it done. All right, so capacity building. First phase of the campaign. What do we think that is all about? Yeah, very simple. All right. You're one person. All right. Average person can knock about 40 doors. Maybe they got a 20% contact rate. What's that? 1/5, right? Maybe 8 people you're talking to, 8 to 10 people that you're talking to. All right. If I did that maybe 3 times a day, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. It's not. It frankly won't. And the only way that we can get out of that is by building what we call capacity through volunteers. Those people in that upper right-hand quadrant of our little graph that we made. Those people are going to multiply the number of doors that we can hit, and the phones that we call, and the people we register, and they can recruit their friends, and we'll get into all the logistics on that. And we need that capacity. And it's going to help us reach out to more voters, create more votes. And it's all going to stem from the skills you're learning this week. All right, voter contact. What do we think that might be? Who are we reaching out to with these volunteers? Yeah, okay, exactly. So we're reaching out to actual voters with various different methods, right? All the ones we just talked about. Maybe we're registering voters. Maybe we're doing some voter ID. What does voter ID mean? Yeah, very good. That just means we're identifying who they support. Have you decided yet who you're going to be supporting in the Iowa caucus? Joe Biden. Great. All right, bye. So, awesome. Really great. And then persuasion as well. We're going to be convincing these people. So that's all in the realm of we're talking to actual voters, trying to see where their heads are at, push them in the right direction, etc., etc. Then our last little bit, very important here, is get out the vote. Yeah, so basically, this is our mobilization. This is when we're taking the list, all the stuff we've collected, and we really make sure that we get these people to make a plan and go out a vote. Make sure remind them to actually do the work of actually going and making their voice heard in our lovely democracy that we're trying to save. So that is what it is all about. And, we need the capacity so we can reach out to talk to voters that we need to then get out and vote and accomplish our mission with our goal in mind. That's what it's all about. These are all tied together. We're always building capacity. For the most part, we're then contacting voters, then getting those voters out. It's a very simple strategy. Well, it's a simple way of how the campaign is going to function, why we do it that way. And with the limited time and resources, our volunteers, they're our bread and butter. And it's just the best way for us to understand it. So we're going to apply some of this now in our little case study for Bernardo for state rep. All right. So what we're going to do is, don't do this yet. We're going to be pulling in your workbooks for page 13 to 15 for Bernardo for state rep. And basically what I want you to do first individually and then as a group, you're going to read about Bernardo and his campaign, all right, for the Florida legislature, all right? Then in your groups of 2, you're going to answer questions about, his mission, goals, strategy, etc. And so this is fictional. There's no Bernardo. He's not running for state rep. And you're going to find that he's incredibly well resourced for a state rep candidate. But these are based off real issues because we want to give you a taste of that reality. We're going to pretend we're out in Florida. Maybe we're panhandling. I think this is actually around the Tampa area, but don't quote me on that. And then I want you to really give us a real world scenario. That what you're going to do as organizers, how we're going to do this. So, I'm going to post some questions up on here and we're going to answer them afterwards. And take some time, read this, fill out your questionnaire for the various activities, and then we're going to come together We're going to answer these questions together, and we're going to debrief. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Welcome back, guys. That was great. I saw everyone working together, having some excellent discussion, and we're going to go through really quick of, our mission and goal really hit. Like, why should people support Bernardo? Excellent. And we're going to talk about the campaign. Amazing. What kind of people want to come to this campaign? Excellent ideas. Absolutely. And perfect. Now, we're going to look at here, and we're going to skip ahead. Phases of an electoral campaign. All right, let's get here to these functions. Now, the first thing we got to talk about is the actual functions of a campaign and what we are trying to do, okay? So we've covered these different phases. We've talked about capacity building. I want to give you a taste of how this campaign is going to look like and what we're going to do and what our structure is. So let's take a look right here. This is one of our leaders, Janae, talking about what a coordinated campaign is. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Janae Wartell, Chief Program Officer at Organizing Corps. But before Organizing Corps, I was a part of and led many coordinated campaigns. A coordinated campaign is an effort to elect multiple candidates on a single ballot. In a presidential election year like this one, the presidential campaign leads the coordinated effort. But in many of your states, there will be competitive congressional elections, Senate elections, and gubernatorial elections. And this is why coordinated efforts are so important. In organizing, this means that as you are recruiting volunteers to talk to voters, they can talk to voters not only about the presidential election, but also about Democrats running up and down the ballot. In 2016, when I led a coordinated campaign, we also had a competitive Senate race and a gubernatorial race on the ballot. And our organizers were recruiting volunteers day in and day out to talk to voters about the important elections that were on the ballot at every level. And in 2020, your work will be critically important to talk to voters about what's at stake, not just at the White House, but at the state house levels as well, and everything in between. So, as you think about your role, organizing volunteers to knock on doors, think of yourselves as the heart and the soul of the coordinated effort, because we need gains in every chamber across the country, as well as in Congress and in the White House. So, coordinated campaigns are the heart and soul of the work that we do as organizers and will be critical to your role as an organizer in 2020.
All right. Thank you, Janae. Okay, so can someone recap for me what is a coordinated campaign? Well, let's read about it. So, a coordinated campaign is an effort to elect Democrats up and down the ballot, national and local offices, during a single election cycle. State parties, presidential campaigns, and statewide campaigns often partner in this effort because it maximizes key resources, time, money, and volunteers to reach the right voters. And a few things to remember. The presidential campaign is at the head of the coordinated campaign. In a presidential year, that's not always true, but it's okay. Coordinated campaign structures may vary slightly from state to state, because each state party is very different. Because that's South Dakota, they just eliminated all their offices there. Fun fact. Don't think we'll be. That's why we're not there. So, the organizing program is the heart and soul of the coordinated campaign because it reaches key voters. Volunteers knocking on doors or phone banking for the coordinated campaign are talking to voters about electing all Democrats running that year and will mention the key offices on the ballot, president, senate, governor, etc., in their scripts. Yeah, so coordinated campaign, our function is we're not just working for one person, we're working for all the Democrats because that maximizes the ability of our goal to take effect. And typically we can use these terms interchangeably. Presidential campaign, coordinated campaign. In that respect, they mean the same thing. But you're going to have coordinated campaigns in off-year elections. We'll get into this later, but some lower campaigns may choose not to coordinate. And that's all dependent on where you are, the race, what they think is important for them, etc. But this is basically how a campaign is going to operate and function. If you take a look right here, let's just look right down the coordinated campaign departments. We got, as it relates to organizers, aka you guys, we got here our coordinated campaign director, the head honcho, runs the show, the whole shebang. Under them, for our organizing department, we got our field director. They're going to help us make that strategic planning framework that we just spent a lot of time talking about. Love to see that. Then we got a DFD, sometimes known as DODs, Deputy Field Director or Deputy Organizing Director, either or, same with RFD. So they'll be kind of ease the load, make a managerial process far easier. Then we got our RFDs, regional field directors and or regional organizing directors, as some are being called now. These people are in the field, so they manage a turf of organizers that they manage, so that they're actually in the field and not in the swanky HQ of wherever you may be, even though that HQ may probably not be swanky either. So keep that in mind. And then under them, we got you guys. The people, that make the trains run. Organizers. Get us to where we need to go. And under you guys, all those amazing volunteers that are going to elect the next Democratic presidential candidate. I need that to be really clear. You guys are creating votes that will get us to 50% plus one and end the presidency of Donald Trump. I will repeat that very often. You're going to be able to say that you and your efforts, even despite being a part of this structure, you played a part. You made a volunteer, which made votes. That's all you got to know. That's what's going to get us through it. And then, of course, we have adjacent to this, connected as also tangential to a governor's race, which we don't have in Pennsylvania, or a Senate race right now, so we don't have to worry about that. But say their own state party, or if anyone knows Josh Shapiro running for AG, his staff and his volunteers. And we don't discriminate either way on who we're supporting. We're supporting the Democrats. We know it's a better future with them on the ballot. So it can get confusing, but this is the structure we're going to focus on. Now, let's look at a little bit of everything else, all right? These are just some of the departments that we're going to cover, right? And, we're not going to spend too much time. We're going to mostly talk about this top left corner, the fun one, the fun and important one. But everything else in here, that's going to really be supporting our organizing staff, We have a data team that looks up what doors to knock and what best to spend our time looking at, right? Got voter protection that we can make sure that people actually get to that we're mobilizing them. They actually can, they're not impeded for various, reasons, long lines, etc., right? We got a political department that gets us endorsements, that gets us volunteers, that makes connections, sometimes constituency advocacy that really helps build volunteers and build goodwill and relationships on our campaign. Training that train us how to train volunteers, how to train people that we're going to need when it comes to GOTV, right? We got ops that gives us the clipboards, that gives us the offices, that pays our salaries. Love that. Money that allows us to do our job. You got digital. We're going to go very deep dive into your role in digital. That opens up access to a lot of different things, among them and primarily getting people to come and join us in our campaign and volunteer for us. And then we got our comms people who are just sharing the positive mission of our campaign, what our volunteers are doing, what you are doing, and building people to come back in. So it really, all the energy is just, feeding right here. It's like a Nash equilibrium, if anyone's taken econometrics, all right? It's all the weight. It's It's right here. This is the path-dependent point. All right. Now, this is our structure, okay? And you'll see this in here. Sometimes campaigns can be very strict about this, and for very good reason. It's called a chain of command, right? You know, you're not just going right to your OD, or your organizing director, as we saw they were interchangeable, or the campaign or state director, right? You're going to go to your ROD, your DOD. It's that up the chain. And can someone please read what each role is? Sure. Coordinated campaign director and state director oversees campaign operation and coordinated campaign. Simple. Organizing director oversees our organizing program. Deputy organizing director oversees a group of regions in the state for the organizing program. Regional organizing director oversees one region for the organizing program. Organizer, you guys, oversees a turf, a group of neighborhoods and precincts. And volunteers, they work with the organizer in that specific neighborhood. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, we're going to now look into the functions of the Bernardo campaign. And we are going to really make sure that we're going to think about its various phases. You're going to look at which departments might be needed in the campaign, what they're going to do in the service of the campaign. So we're going to get in groups of 3. It's going to take about 30 minutes. And we're going to think about, how many campaign departments, right, should support this organizing department, right? We're going to see, what 3 campaign phases, what we're going to be doing in each. I want you guys to get creative, use your mind, think about all the scenarios that we've just looked at for it. We're going to see what's going to be most prominent for the organizing department, and we're just going to make sure that we're just going to assume he's got a large department, right? We're gonna pretend like Bernardo's got the goods, like he knows what's up. And then, so I want everyone to show their work. We're going to have some flip chart paper. I'm going to count off. We're going to go into various groups in the room, and then we're going to share out on our ideas, and this should in total take about 30 minutes. So then we'll come back in, we'll debrief, and other than that, all right, let's go break. Great. Awesome, guys. I loved hearing those ideas. I mean, no person can do it one way. We told you about all the basics that you need. People are creative. Blue algae, got to fight it. How are we going to get people activated about that? It's very different. And having this idea of how these campaigns function is going to help you implement your ideas. So, really excellent. What were some of your key takeaways? What were your aha moment? All right, I want to hear some of that. Good. Very good. Yeah. So, we're really talking about the basic functions of what we're going on here. We're just talking about a framework. We haven't talked about specifically how each things are going to get done yet. We haven't talked about exactly like what you're going to do, how to structure volunteers. We haven't talked about a lot of stuff. But when it comes down to a campaign, this is the bare bones structure. This is the thing that I walked into in May of 2018 when I was dreamy-eyed, still am, fighting to make sure Democrats won back Pennsylvania and kept the governor's race and Bob Casey's Senate seat and made sure that we really made some key gains in Congress, right? That was my vision. That was my dream. That was my mission, honestly. And our goal was to win, and we did it. And now, instead of starting and learning and taking a month to understand all the things you're going to learn just in this week, and then you'll obviously expand on and help out these presidential campaigns, right? We're learning it now in March. So you should be incredibly proud of yourselves. And this is your first step on a very fun and thorough journey. And I'm glad that you spent your spring break with us. Let's keep going. Let's keep learning. In the meantime, we're going to take a coffee break. You're going to fill out your exit ticket right here. Let me know when you guys are done. And we'll keep on going. All right. Thanks, everyone. Really, really appreciate that. If you have any questions, of course, come see me after, or take a look at our parking lot and use one of the stickies right there. Really appreciate you. Have a good one.